Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be revisiting a Pirates with Ben product that I had the chance to review recently, the Pirates with Ben Seas of Japan booster packs. During that review, that was primarily an unboxing and kind of a first impression, and at this point I'm happy to say I've had the chance to use these in around a half a dozen games or so, and wanted to take a moment to kind of revisit some of these pieces, do a quick refresher on some of the stats of the different ships within the new Japanese faction here from Seas of Japan, and talk a little bit about gameplay, some recommended setups, and just kind of a little bit of philosophy on use for some of these different pieces. So we're going to start off by addressing the fact that the Japanese faction here is relatively, well, actually extraordinarily limited in its overall kind of variety. At current state, there are a total of 9 Japanese faction game pieces. The 4 ships here, the Yamagawa, Fujigawa, Atakamaru, and Sengoku, and then 4 crews. So we have Kuki Yoshitaka, Tenjiku Tokubi, the Adzutsu, and the archers here on this double-sided card. Additionally, we have the Minogame here, which is one of the great turtles. However, I haven't actually had the chance to use the turtles, so I'm not going to be discussing those as much. We're going to be primarily focusing on the 4 ships and recommended crew. In my eyes, there are really 2 different ways to play with these as is. Given the constraints of how few pieces there are, you can either choose to take the admittedly harder route, although an interesting challenge, of playing a pure Japanese fleet. Or you can do what I have also tried, which is essentially just house ruling the Japanese faction in current state to be part of the Jade Rebellion. That opens up a significant amount of options, and I would say makes these much easier to play. There's also some thematic fit there. However, for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to be focusing primarily on playing the Japanese faction as a pure faction, pure nationality, without any additional house rules or anything of that sort. In this particular case, we're actually going to start off with the Atakabune here. So we're going to put the Fujigawa and the Yamagawa to the side and bring our Sengoku and Atakamaru here to the front. So the Sengoku and Atakamaru here are Atakabune, which is a new ship type for Seas of Japan. And as a quick little refresher here, the Atakabune keyword is now on the screen. And essentially, these are designed to be just boarding monsters. So a ship with this keyword printed on its deck plate has removable flags that are treated exactly the same as masts on a normal ship. This ship may be given move actions when it has no flags. Its printed base move becomes S. When given a move action, this ship can rotate on her bow or stern in any direction as an additional final move segment. This ship cannot pin or be pinned. This ship gets +1 to her boarding rules for every crew assigned to her. If this ship wins a boarding party, she may steal 1 treasure from the enemy ship and eliminate 1 crew. This ship cannot be assigned treasure except for treasure taken via boarding party, and crew assigned to this ship do not count toward the ship's point limit. If this ship has no crew, she cannot be given move actions. So there's a lot of text there, but when you really think about that, it's kind of shoehorning the Atakabune into a like thief and boarding focused role. You can't load cargo or treasure, excuse me, from an island per that keyword. And you can't be given move actions without crew. Additionally, you have a powerful offensive boarding ability when you combine that +1 to your boarding rolls for every crew assigned, and the ability to both take a coin and eliminate a crew on a successful board. So I'm going to start out with the Atakamaru here, which is the darker of the 2, this kind of black navy blue. I still need to fix some panels here to make sure it's assembled entirely correctly, but this is number 902 from Seas of Japan. So from a quick stats standpoint, the Atakamaru here has 4 cargo, L move, a short roll of 4, 2 long roll of 5s, and has a pretty tanky ability. 2 hits are required to eliminate one of the ship's flags, and you get that for 12 points. Additionally, the Atakamaru has a link to Kuki Yoshitaka here, who is a captain and gets +1 to her cannon rolls made with crew or equipment. The ship's crew can only be eliminated by boarding party, and forts cannot hit this ship. So a couple of different things going on here. A, you combine these two, and what you have is a fairly tanky build here. You know, you're taking 6 hits before you're derelict, or at least demasted. You have pretty poor cannons. However, the ability of Kuki Yoshitaka definitely brings in a strong case to be made for using specialists, equipment, etc. And that crew protecting ability is really strong in that it protects you from cargo wrecking, which there's multiple facets of that ability. In some versions, you know, when this ship hits an enemy ship, you may also eliminate a cargo. When this ship hits an enemy ship, you may eliminate a crew. A couple different variations of that. But those are really strong abilities on the offensive side that would also bypass the defensive ability of the Takamaru here. So having that crew protection, or protecting you from losing crew specifically through those means, is really powerful. So I'm going to recommend on the Takamaru. This becomes a 20-point combination here, but I think this is a really solid start to this. Additionally, on Takamaru, I see the Adzutsu, which is another crew from this set, as being a great fit. So if this ship has any Japanese crew, it gains a short rank 3 cannon that can shoot from any mast. It eliminates 1 mast and 1 crew for each hit. Additionally, this equipment is not subject to the no stacking rule. So in this particular case, I'm actually going to recommend 1 Adzutsu. So right now what you have is +2 to your boards because you have 2 crew assigned. 2 hits are required to eliminate 1 of your flags. So you have 3 flags. You're boarding as a 5-master at base with your current bonuses. And every time you have the ability to eliminate crew from ships on shooting them, and you have really strong boarding abilities. And you also have significant cargo space left. Super notable here is that crew assigned to the ship do not count toward the ship's point limit that's in the Takabune keyword. However, what that means is you're going to potentially be building some really expensive kind of boarding focused monsters out of these ships. So I do think it's notable that these don't really fit within a 40-point game super well if you want to deck them out. These can be really cool in a 60, 80, 100, 120, and upward. But at a 40-point game, some of the combos that I'm kind of thinking about here that I've tried are definitely not great fits. I'm going to recommend that in addition to the Adzutsu, we have 2 cargo spaces left. I also am going to recommend that we bring a smoke pot specialist. If I can find one here, a little smoke pot specialist action. So once again, this is going to get +1 to its rolls thanks to Kuki Yoshitaka. It's also going to give us an additional +1 to our boarding rolls. And that means we're now boarding as a 6-master at base. So we have the advantage over essentially 99, probably 97% of every other ship that's going to be on the table, or likely going to be on the table. There's not a lot of 6-masters overall in the game. Not a lot of 10s are coming to the table, or you're likely not going to be boarding a 10-master with one of these anyway, so you're going to have a strong advantage. And fill out my cargo by adding a helmsman. That L+S move is going to help me catch a lot of smaller ships that I might want to board. It's going to help me chase down gold runners. It's just going to give a lot of flexibility. L is a pretty slow base move. So if you don't have the 2 points, or if you're playing on a really small table, I think you could drop the helmsman and keep that space to gain a coin. However, in a larger game, I'm going to recommend that the Takamaru is run with Kuki Yoshitaka, helmsman, smoke pot specialist, and the Adzutsu. Sengoku here is a much different ship. Where the Takamaru is a 12-point really strong defensively, kind of monster, like clearly capable of being built into really strong offensive ship. The Sengoku here is a little more innocuous. At 6 points with 5 cargo and S plus L move, and no ability aside from the Atakabune keyword. I would argue 6 points is a screaming deal for this ship, just based on the cargo and movement alone. The Sengoku is weighed down by 3 short rank 5 cannons. However, I don't think those are really all that needed, to be quite frank. So for Sengoku, my setup is going to be pretty darn simple, and it is going to be very specific. I want a helmsman. LSS is insane for a ship that's boarding like this. You're now boarding as a base 4-master. And then I also think that the archers is a wicked ability to add onto this ship. So the archers is this ship gains 1 rank 3 cannon that can shoot from any mast, but eliminates crew instead of masts when it hits. If this ship carries cargo with firepot or fire shot in the name, when this cannon hits, also replace one of the enemy ship's masts with a fire mast. When assigned to a Japanese ship, this crew is not subject to the no stacking rule. So right now, we've added 4 points to the total cost of the Sengoku, so we're at 10 points, moving LSS, plus we have that Archer's rank 3 cannon that eliminates crew specifically. And then I'm just going to cheese this one out, and I think that this takes a captain. You're not going to be using those roll above 5s that often. However, by adding a captain into this setup, you now get +3 to your boarding rolls at base. So you're boarding as a 6-master at, essentially moving LSS. You have 3 open cargo for stealing coins, and you can eliminate or kind of increase your ability or likelihood of stealing coins by using those archers with the captain to eliminate crew off of ships before you move in and board, or potentially just as an additional wrecking. Both the Atakabune here, set up kind of how I've described them, really end up being excellent standalone, like just kind of a thorn in the enemy's side, being able to go and attack gold runners. They can hold their own against decent combat ships just based on their ability spread, specifically the Atakamaru with that defensive ability. However, these are also excellent support ships. Some of those crew wrecking abilities and the boarding abilities, those can be just devastating on an enemy's capital ship. If you get first strike with something like the Atakamaru or the Sengoku here and can do some damage to your opponent's crew and cargo setup, that can make it a lot easier to come in with a smaller, medium-sized gunship and just clean up the battlefield. So I think that the Atakabune here from Seas of Japan are really potent offensive ships. And I think that there is a lot of real strong potential for these as the Japanese faction expands, hopefully with some good future releases from Pirates with Ben. So those are my recommendations for the Atakabune. So again, on the Atakamaru, we're taking Kuki Yoshitaka for 8 points, helmsman and smoke pot specialist, and the Adzutsu. That fills our cargo space. On the Sengoku here, we're taking a captain, helmsman, and the archers, which leaves us 2 open spaces for stealing coins and puts us in a great spot to support gold runners, protect our gold runners, or just generally kind of wreak havoc on the enemy's fleet. So those are my recommendations for the Atakabune. Red Seal ships up into the conversation now. The Yamagawa on the left and the Fujigawa on the right. The Yamagawa here is an 11-point 3-master with 4 cargo, S plus L movement, 2 long 3s in the front, and a short-range roll of 5 in the rear. Pretty bad cannon back there. The ability of the Yamagawa is once per round of turns. If this ship carries treasure and is within S of any ship, you may randomly trade 1 treasure from this ship with up to 2 treasures from that ship. That's a pretty interesting ability. The Yamagawa has a link as well to Tenjiku Tokubei, which is this fella right here, who has the following ability at 3 points. One of the ship's treasures is worth +1 gold when unloaded at your home island, and Dutch crew can use their abilities on this ship. Uh, the Dutch are, of course, another custom expansion faction. I don't actually have any Dutch, so haven't been able to put that ability to the test. When thinking about the Yamagawa, however, we really want to think about how we're going to use it. And this actually fits similar, in my mind, to the Atakabune like the Sengoku over here, where the Yamagawa, I'm going to take our linked crew so that I'm getting that +1 gold bonus, and that leaves me 3 cargo spaces. So what I want to be doing with this is I want to be close to enemy ships, and in order to be close to enemy ships, basically so I can take advantage of that treasure trading, because I can take up to 2 treasures from that ship by trading 1. So what that means is I want to keep 2 cargo spaces open, so I don't have a lot of options. I kind of have to make a hard choice here between either an explorer or a helmsman. The idea behind taking an explorer is that I can go out to an island, I can get the worst coins possible, and then essentially go pawn those bad coins off on an enemy ship in order to take their better coins. That's a risky strategy. However, I do think there's strong potential for payoff there, especially if you're looking at, less defensively capable gold runners from an enemy fleet. If the terrain is advantageous to this particular ship, these are really fairly small ships. They're fairly narrow, so they can fit in between a lot of terrain pieces that maybe other ships can't. So I like that. However, this ability requires you to be really close to enemy ships, and the closer you are to enemy ships, the more likely it is that you're going to be shot at, which also means an escape is something that you're going to need. So for me, on the Yamagawa, I'm taking Tenjiku, Tokubei, and a helmsman. Fairly basic setup. However, that LSS move means I can get out to islands quickly. Even if I have to sacrifice a turn exploring, I can still get over to enemy ships quickly after picking up some junk coins. Or if I pick up 2 good coins, I might just run those home quickly to get that +1 gold bonus from my linked crew. The Fujigawa is actually, I think, one of the most interesting ships in the set, in that it has overall, it is a 9-point ship with 5 cargo, double S move, 2 long 4s and a short 4, and then the ability that Jade Rebellion crew can use their abilities on this ship. So right off the bat, that's a super exciting ability to me, just because that opens up a lot more crew than the 4 custom Japanese crew. However, when you really start to look at this ship, at 9 points, you're pretty limited in what is going to fit on the ship, what you're going to want to use. So you have to decide, how are you using this ship? It's not necessarily cannoned to be a gunship. It's got great cargo. So you kind of come into this like a little bit of a pickle in my eyes. And what I kind of landed on is essentially taking Zhengli Quan, a Jade 5-point crew, who is a sack captain. So once per turn, you may eliminate one of the ship's crew to give her an extra action. And then also has treasure trading. So after looking at treasure on a wild island, you may trade any 1 treasure from that island for a random treasure on any other wild island. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting to crew this up ultimately as a quick treasure-focused hybrid. So that's 5 points. I'm taking a helmsman, so I'm now moving triple S for 7. I'm taking an explorer because that's going to allow me to take advantage of my treasure trading ability fully. And then I'm also just going to slap on an oarsman, and that takes me up to my 9 points. Ultimately, the oarsman is there essentially just as a sacrificial lamb. So the way I envision this working is I'm going to essentially start off at my triple S speed. I'm going to bust out to some islands, explore. I'm going to start looking for bad coins, potentially trading those off with enemy islands or islands closer to an opponent. And then I've got some options. If I come into danger, if I get near an enemy gold runner that I either want to attack or that's attacking me, I can kill either my explorer or oarsman pretty quickly for an extra action that'll either allow me to move, 2 move actions moving away, or it'll give me the opportunity to fire potentially up to 6 roll above 4 cannons at an opponent that I either need to sink, want to sink, maybe I don't have the opportunity to get away, so I'm going to take the shot to try and get out of that situation. So those are kind of my crew setups that I've landed on, at least with the current extant Japanese pieces for the ships from Seas of Japan. Potentially in an additional video, I'd like to go through a little bit of kind of fleet synergy between some of the Japanese faction and the Jade. If you're going to combine those two and use them as one, what are some other crew setups and what are some other recommended ships that I would use to support your new Japanese items? However, those are kind of my recommendations at current. Like I said, I've had the chance to play about a half a dozen games with these core pieces. I haven't had the chance to use the turtles yet, although hoping to here soon. So if you have had the chance to use these, I would love to hear what you were doing with them, how you're crewing them, how you've had success, maybe some things you've learned playing with them. And if not, I would recommend that you definitely look for an opportunity to pick some up. Especially if you are, super into and interested in the game. These are a cool expansion. So appreciate you watching. Check out the channel for all kinds of other stuff, and take it easy.